Hi everyone, welcome to the Future of Stable Money. I'm Tianwei, co-founder and CEO of StraitsX. In this series, we explore the evolving role of stablecoin in global payment, diving into topics like regulation and on-chain FX, programmability, and how these innovations are shaping the broader financial ecosystem. Today, I have my good friend, in this case, one of my clients, Walter from Chocolate Finance. I think Walter doesn't require introduction. He's probably a legend in this space. Very happy to have him here today. Just chat about, in general, what is the take on the future of money. And specifically, I think a lot of the viewers would love to hear from you. Like I said, I'm in doing entrepreneurship for the last 10 years. I've been X before this, and then now StraitsX. And I think you are probably a legend in this space. That I was just chatting with you earlier on that, you came from a long history of entrepreneurship and the background of like starting Singlife, and then you became exited Singlife. It's actually one of the new insurance company in Singapore to be licensed in 50 years. I remember when you actually got this thing done, and everyone was thinking like it's impossible. And then now it's one of the largest insurance company, which you have probably exited already. But on the other hand, you also known as the EY Entrepreneur of the Year in 2021, I believe. And that must be a major achievement. But what is really curious to me, and probably to a lot of viewers, especially my wife, which I have been chatting with, is that, so what makes you take, Walter, why do you want to continue doing this after you exit, Singlife, you've really done it, achieve what you need to do? What is the inspiration between starting Chocolate?
Well, great to meet you, Tianwei, and happy to give my 5 cents of personal experience on your podcast and to share my experiences of what we want to do. But obviously, I love doing what I do, and I think Chocolate Finance is building something that's unique and different, and reinventing a little bit how cash works, and loving every day of it. I wake up in the morning every day and say, "Yeah, I love my life because I'm building cool stuff." But more importantly, we're actually building not just cool stuff, but useful stuff, right? Like a product that is actually making people's lives better, doing something better than what's available in the market at the moment. Anyway, we are trying to reinvent how spare cash management works, and we've done a fantastic job with that, and it all works exactly as we planned it to work, and it's growing very, very successfully from day to day. So just love my life.
Sounds like that's exactly the formula here. I think there's something that makes you and me probably kick the same way. I told that to my wife. I don't enjoy everything I do every day. It's like I like running. It's like 80-20, but like that's 20% of the running journey that you hate it, but you generally enjoy doing this. I wake up every day too excited about what we do. And I think that's why you kick. And just so you know, I'm a chocolate user. So is my wife. And we both got the mark recently. I like that quite a bit. She always asks me, she asked me to drink a lot of water. And now she has, exactly. And I think this chocolate has went through a tremendous journey. And like I said, we saw your advertisement everywhere. But today just wanted to check in on like, how's everything going on, right? I think there was a bit of a crisis recently. But if you really ask me, I have quite a bit of connection with the entrepreneur space. I personally feel that you guys did an awesome job in terms of the crisis communication and how you recover from that, right? And congratulations on the recent fundraise. I think you guys just raised about 15 million in July, it is announced. And I heard the AUM is back to 900 plus billion and maybe 100 million. I probably not going to jinx it. Maybe you're going to cross a billion soon again, yeah? So how did, maybe if you help for the viewers as of this show, help us understand, what actually happens and how did they actually, came back from this?
Well, let's just start off by saying what is chocolate, and how do we work, and how does it all work and fit together, and why do we have a recipe which is actually going to be sustainable and long-term value creation, not only for ourselves as a business, but also for customers? How can we actually deliver proper, solid, happy returns to customers consistently forever? And what are the ingredients to do that? And why are we different from banks, for example, right? And that's fundamental to what we do. Again, as I said, we're trying to reinvent how cash works. Banking as it has been for 1 million years is an old-fashioned business, right? You give your money to a bank and they lend it to someone else, right? And the fundamental difference in what we do and what a bank does is when you give your money to a bank, you're actually giving that money to a bank, and it goes on the bank's balance sheet, right? And the bank owns that asset, but then owes you your deposit back, right? So if the bank goes kablooey, then your money's gone because the bank is gone and you've given your money to the bank. And that's why banks need SDIC SDIC protection and all that kind of stuff. For us, it's quite different, right? We're actually not a bank. We're an asset management firm. So what our job is to do is to take money and make it work or deliver returns on that. So that money never actually comes onto our balance sheet. It goes into a separately segregated ring-fenced account which we then use to generate returns on it. So if anything ever happens to chocolate, your money's still safe and sound inside a ring-fenced, separately custodized asset capability. The second major difference between us and a bank is because we run that money separately in a separate account, or it's a managed account and not a balance sheet item, we don't have to hold huge amount of capital and reserves and stuff because your money's safe anyway in the custody. It's like if we go down, your money's safe. If the bank goes down, you have to hold a huge amount of regulatory capital. Because the bank has to hold so much regulatory capital, the ability for the bank to actually give you a good return on your cash is less because he has to earn a return on his regulatory capital as well, right? So that's why banks can't give all of the returns they're getting on your money to you, whereas we can give you all of the returns on your money. And that's how we operate. We give you all of the returns on the money that we generate, and we only make money once we have delivered the returns to you as a customer. That's a fundamental piece. And what we've done with that is we've basically redesigned how cash can earn returns for customers. And we've delivered on that consistently for over a year now, delivering well better than what anything else in the market has been able to deliver in a cash-like solution. And we're very, very proud of what we've been able to achieve. And we did it fantastically well. But it is a new thing. It is a new way of thinking about money. Now, what we had done to deliver this product to customers, we do two pieces of, call it secret sauce, that adds to the proposition. Again, when money comes to us, we manage that money by taking short-term fixed income bonds, and we deliver based on that underlying investment structure. Again, if we don't deliver the returns, we make no money. So therefore, it's in our best interests to deliver those returns to customers. Now, the two pieces of secret sauce that we add is, number one, is we smooth those returns over time. So we're currently offering 3% on your first $20,000 and 2.7% above that. So we obviously have to invest that money to make more than that. Otherwise, we don't eat, right? And we have been able to demonstrate and consistently do that. Obviously, those 3%, 2.7% changes over time as the bond markets change, as interest rates change, as all of these things change. But we're able to consistently and forever have a real, ability to deliver more than what are available on other things. And we have consistently been able to do that. And that's a structural difference that we have. So what we do is, number one, is we smooth those returns. So you run two ledgers. You run an asset management ledger, which is the actual underlying value of the account, and a consistent bank-like ledger, which is your 3%, 2.7% return. And the asset management ledger goes up and down, and the bank ledger just stays the same. And we make money over time because the assets are supposed to outperform the underlying. But you get this nice smooth return.
Yep.
And the second piece of secret sauce that we added was, how do you get your money back when you want it as soon as practically possible? Now, everybody knows if you're investing in a bond fund, it normally takes 3 to 6 days for your money to come out. If you want to make a withdrawal, you put in a withdrawal request. We go to the bond manager and say, we want to sell these bonds, and we get the money back. So what we had been doing is, putting a pool of capital together so that if you really wanted to take your money out, we'd pay you first and then get the money back from the bank, right? Which is not from the bank, from the asset management firm when it comes. And we basically just take that liquidity because we know it's going to come in 3 days. We just kind of give it to you three days earlier. That was what we were doing in an instant piece. And that works just absolutely brilliantly when everything's going smoothly. Now, as you know, we had an issue in March where there was a bit of publicity and a whole bunch of social media and stuff, which actually meant that we had a lot of withdrawals in one day. Yeah. That doesn't mean that there's any problem because your money is still separately segregated and ring-fenced and all that stuff. But instead of us being able to just, pay it out immediately, we just had to follow the standard 3 to 6 days, right? Which is normal for this kind of business. And so there's one ingredient, which is this instant withdrawals. We had to pause it for a while until the whole thing would catch up, right? And of course, people weren't expecting that thing to happen. So, of course, there was a bit of a noise. But fundamentally, everything still works. The money's generating returns. Customers get their returns. Money's safe. Everything's working. No, everything works the same way it says on the box. But the brilliance of the ecosystem is that, despite the fact that we had a massive amount of withdrawals as a result of that thing, we're fine. Everything's fine. Money's safe. Everyone returns. 3 days later, the money comes out exactly as planned, and everything's safe. We're working to put the instant withdrawal piece back in a certain way frame, but that's a bit, once you've gone through an event like this, you have to take some extra steps to get back together. But we'll get there in time as we'll work the thing out. But what's fundamentally important is that chocolate works. It really works. If a bank had gone through the kind of withdrawals we had gone through, the bank would have been needing
Absolutely.
to needing some help. And we proved we didn't need any help because it actually works, which is brilliant. Now, of course, with all startups, as you go, you are learning and growing and improving as time goes by. And we grew incredibly fast. As you said, we got to over $1 billion. And it's just taken us, since that market, we now basically fully recovered to where we were before, because it just took a little bit of a hit, and now we're back on. And off we go. And what we've demonstrated is that, customers are now demonstrably understanding more about how chocolate works, because it is different. It's not a bank. It's not designed to be a bank. It's designed to give you a better return on your cash, or in a different kind of way, which is short-term investment bond-backed type of stuff. So I'm very happy with where we are. Customers love what we do. We've got a very strong, loyal following of people that just really love our product. Of course, there are some people that say, this is different. We don't understand it, or this is not a bank, and I don't want to do that. That's fine, because not everybody needs to put their money with us. Some people can use the banks and get, rubbish returns if they want to. But some people can keep using chocolate and make a meal of it. And then that's what we do. That's how chocolate works. So that's the simplicity of it. And, talking through that particular, call it a bump in the road or a storm in a teacup or whatever you want to call it, that's ancient history, right? And what's going to demonstrate in time to come is that we have proven that without a shadow of a doubt that chocolate works, that returns are there, customers' money works, and that all of the design and entrepreneurial structuring and reinvention of how cash works is actually doing what it's supposed to do, and we being very successful in building it out. Like you said, we've just raised more money. We're not that we need it for the Singapore business, because the Singapore business is close to self-sustaining, but we need that obviously as we start to expand, because we've now demonstrated that we've got a business that works and operates and does what it says, does what it needs to do in Singapore. We now have the ability to expand that into new markets. So Hong Kong and 2 other places we can't announce yet, but are underway for us to bring chocolate to more people, to solve the simple problem of how do I get a better return on my spare cash. And that's what we do. And I love every day of doing that. Yeah.
No. Absolutely. Like I said, you have a happy customers here. Me and my wife, we both have a chocolate card. And maybe a little known fact that folks might not naturally know, there's, Extras, which is also the company I founded, is also part of StraitsX itself, is underlying, these are been sponsor for the chocolate debit card, right? So we were right in the middle of this whole entire saga. We see how the team basically, operated very efficiently, and how actually we were really applying some of this new technology, right? With XSGD being the underlying way we settle with Visa, your team was able to fund this account and actually allow the settlement, right? Unfortunately, there was some abuse over there, which is the reason why some of these crises should happen. But we actually saw that this itself is a good test of settlement of like what you exactly say, right? Not many companies can go through this and recover the way you guys did. And if there's anything for the rest of the folks out there, this is a proof that this company is actually running properly, right? It's exactly as planned. And there is a whole system to allow this kind of onslaught, right? Like you mentioned, I don't think a typical bank can handle this, right? If there's that amount of withdrawal that come their way, right?
We love the StraitsX relationship. We've been using you guys since the beginning for our cards issue and stuff. When I built this at my previous company, Singlife, we did the whole regulatory thing of becoming a payments services company, licensing that raid, ran the rails, built a whole bunch of technology. But when we did it again, obviously the chocolate finance story is actually a child of something that we built at Singlife in the good old days. I was at Singlife, which was called the Singlife account. I don't know if you remember that. It was a similar kind of product, but it had its own fundamental difficulties in being able to generate good returns. But we love the StraitsX relationship, or X first, because we can partner with you guys so that you do what you're really good at, which is cards, payments, and services. And we can do what we're really, really good at, is making money work hard, right? So that mechanic works really well. And some of the secret sauce we do is how do you get money out of the investment account directly into your card and then pay it and settle, which is brilliant. And the whole infrastructure of what you guys have built, we're thrilled with it. It's working as planned, and having this nice balance of us being an regulated asset manager and you being a regulated card service provider, that kind of marriage has been really good for us and for you and for customers, and everything just works super cool.
Awesome. Yeah. Like exactly. I feel this is a very good segue to the next question that I have in mind from a viewer perspective, right? I think some of the StraitsX users are, a fan of the future of, RWA, blockchain, stablecoin, and of course, we being, in early compliance of the upcoming well-regulated stablecoin regime by the MES has allowed us to basically be some kind of a pioneer in this space. And like the new rebrand that we did, we are trying to basically position ourselves to what we talk about is stablecoin rails for real world payments, right? Because a lot of this fluff and people have been talking about, but I think at least we are quite proud in Asia and Singapore that can say that we are probably a number of world first, right? First regulated Singapore stablecoin out in Singapore itself, and then from an application perspective, Chocolate Card underlyingly is using stablecoin for Visa settlement, which is a lot more efficient than the SWIFT and the old country bank matter that we are seeing. And more importantly, recently, you can see, probably we shared a bit about how we are using a stablecoin for cross-border payment between Alipay and Grab, which is really a live transaction that tourists from overseas are benefiting every single day itself, right? But I think this is where it's quite interesting that, a lot of us would like to talk a bit about why a lot of folks are super excited about, DeFi and blockchain itself, especially in some of these, things we just talked about, right? Like you explain away how in the old way of things being done at the bank or assets management that is just clunky process for liquidation, right? With programmable money, which is the future of what we call stable money here, it's allowing a new field called decentralized finance to really take plunge, right? And a lot of excitement has been around that space, particularly in the fact that it opened up the system for developers to innovate and build much more efficient system that potentially can solve some of this liquidity of crises that we start to see in the real world, right? Typically, like 3 to 5 day liquidity T-bills, right? Folks are now talking about tokenized treasury bill, right? Tokenized short-term treasury bill itself that can be programmed on chain and anybody can redeem it. Those kind of stuff that I feel is super exciting, and I feel some of these things relevant to what we just discussed, right? We can potentially solve some of this whole direction itself. On our end, StraitsX vision here is to build out what we call compliance instant settlement rails powered by tokenized value, in this case, money. Yeah. So we already have XSGD and XUSD. So XSGD has been around for since 2020, first Singapore stablecoin regulated in Singapore actually. And that's the one that's being used by Alipay and Grab. We see about more than $8 billion transactions on chain already today, right? And of course, more recently, XUSD, one-to-one backed US dollar stablecoin, which just launched on Binance in March itself, and we're already seeing it hit circulating supply of more than 80 million today itself, right? Both of them are in early compliance for the upcoming MES stablecoin regime, and we are audited twice a month. But with the way we see it is that this is a new form of money, right? So money itself is what I actually talk to a lot of folks that there's a difference between money and then yield-bearing assets. One is the security itself, right? And there should be a need from a blockchain world for this to be properly separated, right? Because if you see how regulation has been moving, is that even the Genius Act passing or the Hong Kong regulation about stablecoin is both clearly determine what exactly is money, and they are not supposed to be like stablecoin specifically, and they are not supposed to be yield-bearing, right? But on the other hand, there's a lot of excitement about the tokenization, what they call real world assets tokenization, RWA assets, that you can tokenize treasury bill, and a lot of these things leading to programmable security and programmable money itself, where end users can easily interact with, or developers can actually build application on top that's transparent and the ability for people to enter in and out very, very quickly. So that's why, at least on our stand, we feel there's a need for this clear separation so that people at any point of time know what assets they are holding. But with DeFi, the openness of stablecoin and blockchain itself, the line is getting closer. And you can see here that the ability to swap between assets now can be completely programmed. And the kind of issues that we see at hand from traditional finance might be solved. We'd love to hear your take, Walter, on what is your personal take, or even Chocolate take on the building of the future of finance around blockchain and stablecoin, RWA, and DeFi lending, for example.
Sure. Look, I've got a lot of views. The first thing is, what is money? Right? What is money? Money is something that I have that I want to give you in exchange for something else. Right? Now, in today's world, we have notes or internet or banking ledgers, but in the old days, we had pieces of gold or stones, or it's a currency, but then you can hold value and give it to someone else in exchange for something else. Sometimes it's a good service, sometimes it's in exchange for a bit of money. But people have been trading stuff for a million years, right? In the old days, I'd give you some hay and you'd give me some carrots, right? There's a famous story about some dude that got a couple of beans and for exchange for a cow, and his beans became a beanstalk, right? It's a trade, right? So there's two fundamental pieces. One is, what is money and what is a store of value? So whether it's beans or beanstalks or carrots or DeFi or something, it is a construct or a store of value. Whether it's a Bitcoin or a stable coin, it is a store of value. There is structures around it to see that it is not replicable, it is transferable, all that stuff. One is, it's a store of value. But the second piece of that is, if you look at the traditional ways in which one asset gets passed from one person to another. You have, in the old days, you'd have a marketplace, right? You go to the market and I take my cow and I trade it for carrots, right? And you had to go to the market to get there, right? If you talk about banks, so if you talk about USD, there's a clearing house and banks run rails, and there's a framework for how assets or money or value gets transferred from one to another, whether it's a cash note or a whatever it is. Now, the beauty around the whole decentralized universe is you've created a whole new set of rails, a whole new marketplace, a whole new place for how exchanges can happen. Now, of course, there's governance, all that stuff that has to go around that. But what I like about the evolution of this is the efficiency that's getting created to automate a bunch of this process, to immediatize the process, and to build contractual execution around the transactions that happen at the same time. So you can make a trade transaction and include a contract of other things that happen at the same time. So in my view, it's really just a natural evolution of rails, or share of value. So you talked about remittance, and remittance via DeFi is just a massively more efficient way of remitting in the old days. And businesses have evolved. You look at all the entrepreneurial businesses around remittance. You started with banks that charged you, 5% for a remittance or $100, whatever. And all of a sudden, people started to get better at it. So companies like RWAs got better at putting pools of cash on different sides of the world and swapping them around in a non-DeFi way. And I see the sense of where, on remittance side in particular, having borderless transactions in this kind of space is just the way of the future. So I think what you're doing is brilliant. I think it's way and cool. But at the end of the day, it's fundamentally a store of value. Now, if I look at it from a chocolate perspective, instead of us giving, your store of value is cash. We have, your store of value is actually a bond fund, right? So you have a share of that bond fund. When you want to, I'm going to change some of that share of value into cash, or whether you want it in cash or you pay it through your chocolate debit card, which is StraitsX run, it gets transferred into, SXD, right? So it's a form of transfer of value. So we're holding value inside a fund. Other people hold it in decentralized finance. Some people hold it in cash and bank ledgers. So it's all just a different mechanism of how it works. The evolution is that the old way of thinking about money is outdated. And people like you and me are changing the way the world's working about new, better, more efficient, cheaper, quicker, faster, better value ways of delivering money, not only just sharing of money, but value of money and growth of money in how we operate. And that's the game plan. That's how new businesses and entrepreneurial businesses work, is we find a new way of doing an existing process which is better than what was done before. And if you do it better, then your business will be successful because people realize that there's value created. And chocolate is doing exactly that with cash, and you're doing exactly that with DeFi and related product and payments and all that stuff in between.
So maybe I can take a bit more on to double click on that deeper, because my background is in engineering. I always tell people actually my job is an engineer, but the fact is that I think fundamentally how this DeFi and blockchain actually solve some of this problem is it remove a lot of boundary and a lot of inefficiency that's locked up in the old way of how things are being done. For example, you just mentioned that if I'm buying a treasury or a bill or short-term bond assets, the typical way is that you have to go to a bank, negotiate a contract, and there's a contract paperwork they have to get done so that you are now they issue you a bond contract and you hold on to it, right? And when you actually want to sell, there's probably only a few brokers that you have to go to get that thing liquidated and get it back in funds, right? And all these things have human involved, and they have contractual lawyers involved in actually doing a lot of this thing, right? But if you take a view that what I think is exciting from a developer point of view here is that what actually is being happening today with blockchain is that a lot of these contracts are being rewritten on the smart contract basis on the blockchain itself. That in engineering term, we call that Turing complete, whereby they can execute and self-governance on their own, right? The rules are written into a program that's self-governing itself, right? And it just makes these assets being able to be transferred between users and peer-to-peer wise without human intervention, which improve the efficiency by a lot, right? In this case, I don't have to wait for like banking hours, which is what I think a lot of us came from a background like Swift today. Only work from 9 to 5 or 9 to 12. Sometimes the bank is really nicer to give us extended hours when the bank is open, right? And that itself is why remittance are so slow, right? And we came out with a lot of different ways, like pool of money, and an entrepreneurial product that's actually just trying to bridge the gap between a whole inefficient way of how funds are being moved. But right now, because you're actually not really interacting with a human anymore, right? Everything is on a living, breathing basis on 24/7 on a smart contract, living on an open blockchain where anyone can interact with, of course, with all the rules and boundaries built into the smart contract. It means to say that we can operate at the speed of the internet. You at 3 a.m. in the morning, if you have a tokenized assets like a stablecoin in this case, or maybe a RWA like a tokenized treasury bill, you can go to a smart contract that is not governed by anyone but by a set of criteria and programming, and liquidate it immediately via API, right? And that itself unlocks so much building capability that allows a lot more superior user experience and product to be built, right? I think some of the problems that we probably see, whereby you had to wait for the bank to open it up on Monday, which is the issue that all of us heard, is that, hey, I want to do this withdrawal right now. I think some of you guys you probably experience it, and maybe it's a part of the reason of the crisis itself, is that you're trying to let this liquidation happen, but the banks only serve you on banking hours, right? So if somebody's trying to make this withdrawal on a Saturday, it's just not going to happen in the old way that we've been doing, right? There's no one going to be able to process this paperwork. There's no lawyer going to sign it off. You wait for Monday when they all get back to the office. They start operating it maybe by Monday afternoon. This way you actually have the system in account. Then you can actually start doing a lot of operation. So that inefficiency is what I feel programmable money and stablecoin and actually the whole blockchain get to do. And now you magnify this at a scale that because of the openness of the blockchain itself, we remove the intermediary, right? You don't have to go through a bank. You don't have to go through bank A, bank C, or a border itself. This becomes borderless. And, at a small company or a small startup, or even like a big established player like you guys in Singapore itself, can directly be interacting with a treasury bill out in US issued by a US company on the blockchain itself, right? That borderless and programmable nature is where I feel the real power is in, right? A lot more efficiency can now be achieved, and the speed of the internet can actually finally work, right? People don't have to be operating within an operating hour. You can just build an app and then have this thing running 24/7. And I feel this is where a lot of this thing will probably come in the next phase, and I want to hear your take on that.
Yeah, man. Like as I said, technology is evolving. Fundamentally, people still need to get access to assets and access to money. And if anybody that can build a faster, more efficient way to do that, which incurs less costs, will have an advantage in the future. And the cost is a big thing, right? Why do banks have so many people? Because a lot of the processes are manual. And then so many people is a lot of cost. And again, that cost is why banks can't give you great returns on your deposits, because they have a lot of costs to bear. And so if companies like yours and mine can build these alternative rails or alternative use cases for fund flows, contractual value, store of value, returns, and access, and do that at a fractional cost, ultimately over the long term, there will be a massive shift towards more efficient processes. And so that's just normal, right? And I'm a big fan.
So maybe switching gears a bit, right? So, founder to founders, we've been doing this for quite a while, and I think there's a lot of experience in sharing and people want to know more. But I think that at least on my take, there's constantly struggle on our end to balance between, especially in the regulated space that we are, right? In payments itself, balancing speed, safety, and user expectation, right? And that's something that is quite close to my heart. Like, for example, to this day, I actually still read the customer support emails, because sometimes I feel the best way to actually learn, and it might be saying that people might say nasty things, and I read nasty email all the time. I take a lot of pride in actually understanding what my customers tells me. And even with the age of AI and blockchain that I just talked about, we just spent the last 30, 40 minutes talking about this itself, is that actually human touch is still very important, right? Ultimately, I think the chocolate brand is super strong and everyone trusts the brand, because in my opinion, there's going to be a need to continue even with AI and blockchain, having what I call trust anchor. Like humans want a personal touch, and they want someone that they can actually trust to actually be helping them deal with this uncertainty. Because if I just try to explain AI, blockchain, and all these things, it generally scares a large part of the audience, right? They just get disconnected immediately, right? And I love it how the way you guys do it, right? Just make it really simple, right? Like I was just sharing with my wife that this is a no-brainer product, right? You put your funds in, it's like a sweet chocolate returns, and you can just get a revenue. It counts per day. I don't have to jump through hoops. I don't have to credit my salary and do a lot of these things that sometimes I feel is require a PhD to figure out what's the best way to optimize. I want a simple product, but I trust the brand that will be able to give me the best benefit itself, right? So that's something that on my end, I feel is still super important, right? I spend a lot of time thinking about the reviews on, like, I take a lot of pride, and we talk about this in multiple interviews, right? If you look at StraitsX on Google Map, we're one of the only company that have a 5-star review on StraitsX on the Google itself, because the history of the company, right? People actually are quite concerned whether this is a legitimate company, where's the office, is this something that people really count on. And I realize over time this have huge returns, right? People cares about your history, and trust takes time, right? It is long-term investment into customer support, making sure that the customers understand you. And because of that, then it allows us to do some of those other things that I feel is a bit more sensitive and difficult, right? In this case, the balance between safety and speed. In this age and age, there's a lot of fraud going on. Sometimes we have to implement control to protect the customers. And that introduces frustration, because that introduces friction, right? And people there's always netizen that goes a bit crazy and start to say stupid things online, which we have to still take and actually be able to answer them, right? We'd love to hear your take, right? Given you just went through that whole entire experience, how do you balance between, keeping users super happy and giving them the top expectation they will like in terms of speed, but at the same time, deal with user safety and also how the operation things that you have to run as a day-to-day company.
Yeah, look, I mean, everything we build is for a customer. Right? If the customer is not the end goal, is if you can't build something that customers actually like, you're not going to have any customers. Very simple, right? And so, in order to get more customers, you need more happy customers, and so customer feedback is included in everything that we do. We've obviously got like really cool things, like if you take your chocolate account and shake it, it'll say, do you want to give some feedback or suggest an improvement? And we've actually got, every time something happens, it goes into a Slack channel, and I see every request for every kind of improvement that comes in. That goes into an automatic triage board, and we prioritize that stuff and rebuild, and then taking that feedback in directly. Obviously, customer service has got a massive amount of work that has to go into. But actually, frankly, if everything's working properly, there's not a whole bunch of reasons that people come and ask you questions, because it actually just works. So there's, it's only really when there's something that's not working that you need to have to kind of, respond to. And then sometimes it's those customer feedbacks helps us to update our frequently asked questions, or to update our app and experience, just to make sure that those learnings and understanding is better, because we are doing something different. And it is not we're not a bank, right? So you have to kind of explain a lot more about how we do. The Google reviews is a huge thing, and we've got fantastic App Store reviews across Android and Apple. But obviously, when have public things like this instant withdrawal thing, of course, you get a couple of negative reviews, and it'll take us some time to get that back in over time. But generally, most people love what we do. But having that customer centricity and customer feedback is fundamentally important to how products evolve, how product design happens, how you react, how you tweak. I mean, for example, we now have US dollars as a product, right? So you can get 4.3% on your US dollars with chocolate, which is well higher than what you can get on your Sing dollars, right? And we've built a franchise or capability. We said, well, first you put your money into Sing dollars and you can move it into US dollars. And it's really easy for us to build payment rails on SGD, because that's the Singaporean infrastructure. That money comes in and comes out, and it's easy. But it's actually really hard to build US dollar rails, right? Money can come in from all over the places, clearing. How do you check where it's come from? All the authentications. So we've had this ability to kind of say, money comes into Sing dollars. You want to save it in US dollars? Okay, fine. You can just change it into US dollars. And we've had this massive request from customers to, actually, I have US dollars. I want to send you my US dollars directly. Now, that's not a straightforward thing in our universe, especially in our world where we're so fraud preventative. What we do, and when we accept customers' money, is when you send your money to us, we validate the account from which it came, so that when you want to take your money out again, you can only send it to the account from which it came. So a fraud guy can't say, "Hey, I've got this great thing. Why don't you send your money?" The fraud is taken out, because we close out, we verify accounts in and out. To do that in US dollar terms is pretty tough. But based on the customer feedback we've been having, so actually we've got a huge customer base that says, actually, I've got this US dollars lying around. I want to earn more than what I'm getting parked in my rubbish account at the bank. I want to send it to you directly. So we will be launching that in the next couple of weeks, opening that to customers. So very pleased about those kinds of evolution of our business. But you need the customer feedback to kind of focus your attention on what to build next and prioritize.
Yeah, we should talk about this. Actually, we have a US dollar rails that's coming up as well, and actually, stablecoin has been what I'm seeing a lot of industry, from SMEs to treasury management, as seeing that this is the best way to optimize, right? Because if your clients are still sending you via the old clunky RWAs, they had to pay $50, right, doing a TT transfer out of Chase Bank in US, and it takes like 2 days to 3 days to reach you. That itself is already something that I think a lot of optimization can really be done with stablecoin. And these days, this is exactly what we're seeing the customer trend. Right? I think we're just seeing a strong uptake from B2B perspective that a lot of folks has tried to figure out that, they can actually find a much better alternative rails than paying the expensive TT fees they've been paying and then expect 3 to 4 day delay, right? So that might be something we should actually just double click on and talk a bit more on how Chocolate and stuff can basically start accepting stablecoins as a way to on and off, right?
Lots to do, man. Lots to do.
I love that because, like I said, I'm a personal user, right? And I think about it like, crypto side, of course, there's a part of me is a bit degen. A lot of folks still go into those market and do those a bit more unrecommended stuff. But on the other hand, there are folks that want to quickly exit the market and put their money into a account like you guys and just generate daily yield that are safe and basically allow them to accrue their interest whenever they need it, right? So then that speed becomes something that everyone would expect out of an account like that, right? And that's why we see the market trend going. A lot of players are looking at. I definitely should catch up with you guys to talk more about the US dollar stablecoin that we are doing right now.
All right, let's have a chat.
Yeah, thanks, Walter. And actually, I think we are pretty much gone through all the topics today. But if you have anything, if you want to readjust, say something, this is now your time.
Oh man, all good. Like, just wake up every day and say, hey, let's do something cool and build something that's useful, and off we go, right? So, you talk about, life as an entrepreneur or founder. It's not most, not every day is easy. But if you love problem solving and love figuring out how things work, and that's what we do all day, and having a great time with it. Like as you said, obviously we continue on this massive growth phase.
Yeah.
We will continue to improve the product and services as we do, like the US dollar and other things. We now got the Hong Kong business well underway, which I'm very excited about. But the beauty of using the tech, using the core centralized tech capability means that we can actually use the same core infrastructure anywhere we operate in the world, which means we can actually scale really, really quickly. We run Chocolate with actually quite a light staff because everything is automated, and because of that automation, we can handle massive money in, money out, no problem, because it's pretty much automated. And we can scale it. So you can turn a Hong Kong or a new market on once you get all the licenses and things in place in relatively short order. Of course, there's complexities around AML checking and KYC and bank rails and custodianships and all the stuff to do behind how to operate businesses. But it's cool. My job is to give people a better return on their cash than what they've experienced previously, and that's the objective of what we do. But then you also talk about what's next, right? And the question is, how do people think about not just cash but broader wealth in total? And I think people have got 3 buckets of money. You've got your cash-like money, or money that you don't want it to go down. You want to just see it deliver a return. You want to get access to when you need it. It's like your bottom of the pie, your stable source. And Chocolate has done a phenomenally good job in just focusing on just that one thing, that first bucket of money, which is your cash, how you optimize it and get it when you need to. The second bucket of money I think people have in their heads is the thought about, okay, I have money where I need to park for a long time from now, right? I have my retirement or something. I don't want to, all I know is that if I keep it just in cash or cash-like products, or fixed income type products, the returns are, they're much more stable and much more predictable, and going to get it. But actually, if I have a 5-10 year outlook, I actually want to get a little bit more. But in order to do that, I'm going to have to take a bit more volatility on that. But if you volatility, and there's a trade-off between better returns and more volatility. But if I've got some time horizon, I think there's a second bucket of money, which is just people like me. I have some cash in that I want to keep for a rainy day. I just want to have one place with a not stupid investment. Like, I don't want to, knock it out of the park. I just want to have a place where I can put my longer term money and not think about it. I don't have to worry every day. Am I going to worry is market's gone up, market's gone down? Who cares? This is like a long term thing. It's like your CPF money. You just put it there and it's going to be there for you one day. Right? I think there's a second bucket of money. And I think there's a huge number of people that actually need something like this, but I just don't know what to do, right? People you get advice from everywhere. What do I do with my money? Where should I put it? And everyone says, oh, you should buy this, or you should buy that, or you should buy this, buy that. But actually, what's good today is not necessarily good tomorrow. And my view might be different from someone else's view. What you want is an all-weather, long-term, stable bucket of money. Simple, park it, set it, forget it, and it works. Exactly. The third bucket of money is, I call it your speculative money, right? I want to buy Tesla, or I want to buy Bitcoin, or I want to buy Apple, or whatever flavor of the month. I want to gamble because I think I'm going to optimize because some dude on Reddit told me that it was a cool thing, or my mom's uncle's brother told me that I should do this. So I just like ABC shares. And in my view, like, I mean, if my job is I'm an actuary by training and I'm an asset manager by training, but I don't have the research capabilities and the all of that skill set to go off, and I don't know if Apple's going to be a great stock or not. I can read the press, but there are other people that are way better than me at understanding how to manage that. So me personally, I'm not the guy that likes that kind of speculative stuff, but I think people do have that kind of speculative capability. Chocolate, we started with cash. Like, how do you optimize your spare cash and make that work? What's the next thing is, I think there's another bucket, which is this long-term stable, park it and forget it. And people like me, I would rather spend my time working or riding my bicycle or doing something than spending every day deciding, should I go in and out of Tesla? I mean, like, it's not my thing. I just want to put it somewhere which is not a dumb place. I don't mind a bit of volatility. I don't need to knock it out of the park and be the best performing fund. I just needs to be decent and give me 6, 7, 8, 9% return over a long period of time. That's what I think is happy. I think lots of people need exactly that. I think nobody's offering that. And so I think that's the pathway for us to think about next things.
Well, I love that. I will be a customer. Like, I think people just talking about it. Sometimes we just need consistent, dollar cost average investment into something that, will gradually show that it will actually improve. I think that there's a lot of numbers that, you can do. The history behind this is you actually do not. The one thing to do is to time the market, because you're not really an expert at that itself. Like, you just have to miss like twice and that's it. Like, any kind of investment is going to be irrelevant, right? So, but the proven method is what most of the folks I already told you is to do a dollar cost average investment, right? And I think that category of product that will give us some level of high yield, a little bit of volatility, but with timeline investment is exactly the kind of thing that I think a lot of the large part of the folks that are probably in my personal friend space and stuff will need, right? Because we just don't have the time, and we really don't enjoy looking at the chart and telling me that this is the best time to go in. Exactly. I think the speculative stuff, sure, there will be a little bit of pocket money that people want to do it. That's for fun. I feel some people really just do it for fun, right? But from most of your assets, you're prudent. Yeah, you just want it to be safe and then be around when your time comes, right? And that's exactly the bucket that I will spend my time on. I would love to help you guys on that kind of product, or I just be a customer myself. Yeah. Awesome. Thank you, Walter. Maybe any parting words for our, it's given that both of us came up, as entrepreneurs and stuff. I have folks that ask me, and I think you will be probably a better person to answer this. Anything you want to say to a 20-year-old self, or guys who are looking to go into this space, entrepreneurship, this is what exactly I want to do. Like, any advice from them, like a 20 years old yourself?
Yeah, look, I a lot of guys go into entrepreneurial stuff saying I'm going to change the world, but they don't really have a good, solid perspective of what the world is. And I think sometimes you really have to understand how things work before you can change them. So everyone says, I'm going to build a better this, but they don't actually know what a this is because they've never actually worked in that space, right? So there's a lot of guys that start off when you're 20 years old and say, I'm going to be a startup guy. But actually, I think your likelihood of success is significantly greater if you have had a job, got some experience, and built some credibility over time. You've got a better frame of reference for how to change the world or what needs to change. The second piece of advice is, just work damn hard, right? I mean, nothing easy in life, nothing great in life comes without a bit of effort. And when you're working through stuff, that means that when you face a problem or a challenge or whatever, you just work your way through it and eventually you get it. You just keep pedaling the bicycle and the hill goes up. You just keep pedaling and you'll get to the top, right? Just keep riding the bicycle, and that's all you got to do. As long as you're happy riding a bike, you'll have fun.
100%. I think the second part is a complete given, right? A lot of us things, like I have friends that ask, and people talk to me, and a lot of youth school guys look at us with gleaming eyes that this is not going to be an easy thing, right? And what we've been doing, and like I said, I have a joke one time that people ask me, what is the biggest crisis that you have faced recently? And I think for you have a lot of answers. But for me, I'll just say just yesterday morning, man. Like every morning, every day, there's new. We are doing this day in, day out at the point that this is actually common to you. And you must be able to commit to do this thing for extended period of time. If not, this is not going to work out. But on the first time, I totally 100% agree with you, right? Even myself started working for someone, right? Because if you think about it, I think we too talk about this internally is that we are probably a bad manager because if you've never managed some good people before in your life or never been managed by a good manager before, how would you be able to run a company, right? Because you actually do not know what exactly is the right ingredients to be a good manager. So actually, there's no shame in this. Work with someone that you look up to and you can actually learn from and spend some time just meeting friends and building up your network before you just jump right in and day one that I want to do entrepreneurship, all right? Awesome. Thank you, Walter. I think we should grab coffee again sometime.